and welcome new Seahawks. My name is Dawn Musgrave Demarest. I am the Registrar and Primary Designated School Official and your International Student Advisor while you're here at the Keiser University Flagship Campus. And I welcome you to our beautiful campus here in West Palm Beach. The first thing I want to point out on the first slide here is that you're going to be attending the Flagship Campus. We are located in West Palm Beach, but we also have another campus in West Palm Beach. So please make sure if you're asked which campus that you're attending, always refer to us as the Flagship Campus. So you're sent to the right campus if you're calling by telephone. So here's some important contacts that you'll need to know for your any information that you might need or help you might need with anything. My information is right here, Dawn Musgrave Demarest. At the top here. This is my phone number and my email address. I have an Associate Registrar, Jessica Velez. She is the face of the Registrar's office, and she will be able to help you with anything you need as far as enrollment verifications or transcripts. She's one of our designated school officials. So if you look through the list, you'll see a couple of us that have a DSO listed. Anybody here that's a DSO would also be able to help you with any kind of I-20 or international student questions. But you always want to try to contact me first. So then we have our admissions counselors and the associate director of admissions. They're the ones that probably helped you get your initial I-20 and get everything ready for you to be able to enter the United States. We have 4 academic advisors, Heather, Ann, Hannah, and Nico, and they are there to assist you throughout your whole studies here at Keiser. They are broken down by program, so it depends on which program you're in. You would be assigned an advisor. That information you should have received through your orientation schedule. We also have Jameen Caldwell, who's an athletic compliance. So if you're an athlete, she is the one that actually reports information to the NAIA for you. And then we also have Nellie, who is our ESOL director. I also want to point out the campus security number here at the bottom of the screen. Whenever you come on the campus, you always want to make sure you have that telephone number programmed into your phone in case there is a time where you might need to contact them immediately. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Department of Homeland Security and where your information that you provided to us is housed in our government system. So the Department of Homeland Security was formed when 9/11 happened and the World Trade Center. And so what the Department of Homeland Security does is they have 3 offices that deal with customs enforcement and immigration. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Office, or USCIS, Customs and Border Protection, which are the people at the port that admit you into the port. They're also the ones that are carrying the guns around the airport. And then also the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office. Now the ICE office is the office that runs the Student and Exchange and Visitors Program. All right, so this office is the office that manages the Student Exchange and Visitors Information System. So this information system is the database that houses your information to print your I-20. Okay, so SEVP manages the SEVIS system. The SEVIS system is the electronic database that contains your official F1 record. The U.S. Department of State is the office that issues your visas. The Customs and Border Patrol admits you to the port. And USCIS authorizes any changes, training opportunities, and some other benefits for F1 students. So let's talk a little bit about the international life cycle of an F1 student. So a lot of you have already you should have all come through stage 1, which you've applied to the school. You've gotten your I-20, and you have paid your 901 fee, and then you apply for your visa. And then number 5, you arrive into the United States. So some of you have done this and some of you have not yet. You can arrive up to 30 days prior to the program start date. Okay. And then once you arrive and you start your program, then we just talk about how to maintain your status during your program of study. There are some work requirements if you do plan to get a job on campus or off campus, but there are processes that you have to go through in order to do that. And then any post-graduation opportunities after you have graduated and completed your program. And then, of course, you would depart the United States based on what your plans are. So we're going to talk about 4 very important documents. We have our passport, we have our visa, we have the I-94 or the I-20, which is here, and we have an I-94. So we're going to talk a little bit about these, what they are, what the differences are, and why they're important to you. So let's talk about the passport first. So the passport is issued to you by your home country. So that's your document that your government issues to you so you can travel outside your country. It has to be valid the whole time that you're here in the United States, okay? And it has to remain valid for up to 6 months beyond your stay in the United States. It should contain your visa that you've received from the U.S. consulate or embassy in your home country. With the exception of the Canadian students, they do not require a visa. If you've been issued a new passport, this is just a reminder, if you've been issued a new passport while you're a student here, you need to bring your passport to me, the International Advisor, to make sure that your information is updated in your record and in your SEVIS record. You may renew your passport at a U.S. embassy, or in the U.S., excuse me. You may renew your passport in the U.S. So if you remain in the United States and you need to renew your passport, you can do that while you remain in the United States, but it has to stay active and valid the whole time you're here, okay? You do not need to go home to renew your passport. That is a big difference between your passport and your visa, and we'll get into that in a minute. We also recommend it's a good idea to keep copies of your passport and your visa in case they're ever lost or damaged or stolen, misplaced. You have a photocopy or a picture of it to refer to in case you need it. And always keep it in a safe place so you know where it's at. Your visa is obtained from the American Embassy or Consulate in your home country. Okay, so, and it's added to your passport. And it does not, I just want to, if you look at the expiration dates on your visa, it does not represent your authorized stay in the United States. You need to check your I-20 for your program start and end dates. That is what gives you your authorized stay dates, not the visa page, okay? So, F1 students can remain in the United States with an expired visa. This is the big difference between the passport and the visa. Your passport has to be valid the whole time. Your visa can expire. However, you cannot use it for re-entry to the United States if it's expired. So as long as you're remaining in the United States, your visa can be expired, but once you want to travel outside the United States, you would need to return home, get a new visa before you'd be able to enter the United States. So keep that in mind. The visa number, if somebody asks you for your visa number, it is the red numbers on the lower right-hand corner. It is not the control number, so don't get it confused by this number. It's the number, red letters and numbers down at the bottom right corner. So your I-20. Your I-20 information is provided to you from the SEVIS, or the SEVIS database, which is run by SEVP, and we covered that earlier. This information is information you provided to your admissions counselor, and they go into this SEVIS database and create your I-20. So all the information on your I-20 is very vital, and it needs to be accurate at all times. So it's really important that you're aware and familiar with what's on it and checking it each time you travel to make sure that it is accurate. During your course of your study, you could be issued new I-20 copies, depending if you are changing your program, or you need an extension of your program, or you're working. You would want to keep all copies of your I-20s. Do not throw any of them away, because if you apply for any kind of post program benefits, a lot of times they will ask for copies of all the I-20s that you've been issued. So you want to make sure you keep them in a safe place and do not discard any of them. The I-20, if you look at the front page, it will show a lot of information, your name and your date of birth, your country of birth, but it'll also show your program and the start and end dates of that program. And it's really important that you check that to make sure those start and end dates are correct and your degree program is updated and correct as well. Anytime you change your program, or you need a program extension, or you're a transfer student completing your transfer in to Keiser University, you will be issued a brand new I-20. So just keep that in mind. Upon arrival to the campus, you would obtain a DSO or PDSO signature on your travel page, which is page 2 of your I-20, and that indicates that you have arrived into the United States and that you now can travel back and forth from the United States to another country and then back into the United States using that travel signature, your visa, and your passport. Updates are required for information such as program end date. Keep that in mind. Also, F2 dependents require travel signatures as well. So if you have a spouse or children that are coming with you, they also require travel signatures. So if you are checking in and you are bringing your I-20 to get it signed, please make sure you're bringing all of your dependent I-20s as well. And again, just another reminder, keep all of your past I-20 copies because you might need them if you're going to file for a benefit in the future. The I-94 form is your record of arrival and departure. So each time you arrive into the United States, the Customs and Border Protection Officer enters your information into their database. This creates an admissions number. So what you have to do, and it's a good practice, is to go online and pull your I-94 number each time you arrive into the United States. I do not need this number every time you do this, but I do need it when you check in for your orientation. So after you arrive into the United States and you check in with admissions or housing, you will need to print your I-94 and then bring that to me with your other documents, and I will review that in a minute, with you so I can make a copy and put them in your file. So the I-94 is the official record of the arrival and departure records. It also shows a history of your travel. So every time you are entered into the United States, you're entered with a stamp called D/S, which is called duration of status. So what does that mean? That means that you are in active status and in good standing for as long as that I-94 number is valid and you're pursuing your degree program and you're following all the rules of the F1 student. And it allows you to remain in the United States as long as you do that. Once you leave the United States and come back, you'll be issued a new I-94 number. And you should just make it a habit that each time you do that to print out your new I-94 number and just keep it in your files for your record. There are two different types of I-94 records, and it depends on the port in which you come in. If you come in through an air or a sea port, you'll be issued an electronic copy of your I-94. If you enter through a land port, they will put a little card in. If you look down at the bottom, the little bottom card is the card that will be stapled into your passport. To access your I-94 number online and your travel history, you would go to where it says electronic retrieval for your I-94 here at the bottom of the slide and put in that information, and then they're going to ask you for your passport information and your name and date of birth. You must enter the name exactly how it appears on your passport for it to come up. So make sure you go in once you've arrived and get checked in. Within 2 days, you want to come in and bring that information to the registrar's office. So the F1 visa versus the F1 status. So the visa is the document that's placed in your passport. the document, the visa that you obtained from the U.S. consul and abroad. It provides permission for you to enter the United States for a specific period of time. The expiration date does not represent your length of study in the United States. That is determined by your I-20 program start and end dates. And again, you can remain in the United States if it's expired, but as soon as you want to travel, you need to make sure that you're returning home to renew your visa to gain re-entry. The status is determined by all of your documents, your start dates, your end dates, your enrollment in school, to make sure that you're keeping and maintaining good status with your F1. So that information is documented on your Form I-20, your passport, and your I-94. And when a student enters the United States, the date of entry, the port of entry, the visa class, the duration of status, all of that is looked at to see what status you're in. And as long as you're maintaining good standing in your classes and you're attending and your expiration dates haven't been reached, you will be in good standing. So how do you maintain your F1 status? It's very simple. There are just a few things you need to remember to do. The first one is you are required to have a local address and a foreign address with your SEVIS record and with the school at all times. If at any time either one of those addresses change, you have 10 days to report that change to me. You can find my office over in the DeVos building, so please make sure that you're coming within 10 days to report those address changes. If you have a legal name change, the same thing applies. You have a 10-day window to submit those documents where we can get your name changed, and a new I-20 would be issued to you. If you have a change of major or program, you also need to report that within 10 days, and you will get a new I-20. You need to maintain full-time enrollment. So our degree-seeking students in the associate and bachelor's level programs, a minimum of 12 credit hours per semester is required to maintain full-time enrollment. If you're in a graduate program, 6 credits is the minimum to be full-time. Our ESOL students, whatever the program is requiring, it's typically 3 to 6 hours is full-time, would be required for you to maintain your in full-time enrollment. Secure any work authorization prior to working. That means on campus or off campus. Obey laws and regulations, filing your tax forms. The drinking age is 21. Just stay away from the drugs. We have a lot of rules on campus about those things, so make sure you're reading the student handbook. Please don't drink and drive or transport alcohol in your car. That's a big one to know. And then if you are required at any time to exit the country, please do so within the time frame that you're given. There's also a guide to studying in the States for F1 students, and the link is here on the slide, so you can go into that website and read a bunch of information provided to you from the government about being an F1 student. So I mentioned unlawful presence, and so I want to talk about that just briefly. And so unlawful presence is the period of time when you are supposed to have departed the United States, but you're still in the United States. And so those days add up, and they add up when your SEVIS record has been terminated and you do not have a departure record. So there are just some penalties here that you can kind of scroll through. There's a 3-year penalty, there's a 10-year penalty, and a permanent penalty to be able to be admitted to the United States, depending on the number of unlawful presence days that you've accrued. So please make sure you're aware of that. So when does this apply to you? If you've stopped attending school and you haven't complied with grace period regulations, if you've graduated and you stay past the 60-day grace period allowed, and you haven't made any other lawful arrangements to stay in the United States. Your SEVIS record may have been terminated because of you said you were leaving or you disappeared, and you don't comply with the departure regulations. So here's the status periods for your F1 student. During the program of study, you have to maintain your full-time enrollment. There's no grace period for an unauthorized withdrawal. And what an unauthorized withdrawal is, if you stop attending your classes and disappear, we don't know where you're at, we will submit a unauthorized withdrawal status to your SEVIS record, and it will terminate your record, and there will be an immediate departure required. If you come to us and let us know, hey, I need to leave and go back home, I can't continue, we can terminate your SEVIS record, but for an authorized withdrawal, and there is a 15-day grace period for departing. But once you stay and you complete your program, there is a 60-day grace period for departing the country. You cannot work or study on campus during that period of time. You would either need to prepare for departure, transfer out to another degree program, obtain an optional practical training, or apply for a change of status. So I mentioned optional practical training, which is OPT, which is our next box here. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a future slide. And that is a work benefit that you would be able to apply for. And it has some, different guidelines and requirements that are listed here in the next two boxes, the OPT unemployment. And then once the OPT is done, you have another 60-day grace period. So I just want to recap when you're supposed to come see your designated school official. That would be me or Jessica or Yvette or Heather from that second slide that we showed you. So just to recap, if you change your name, you change your address, you need to change your major, you need an extension on your program end date, you drop below full time, you'll have to leave school at any time, you're thinking about transferring, if you need a travel signature, which is on page 2 of your I-20, if you're looking for any kind of employment, considering an internship or interested in OPT, but also if you have any personal issues, financial issues, health issues, anything that you just need to talk to somebody about or need to get some professional guidance on, we are always here to help you. So please don't hesitate to seek us out. So we're going to talk a little bit about employment. So you're here on an F1 visa, which is a study visa. It is not an employment or a work visa. So there are a lot of regulations requiring F1 visa holders to comply with before you'd be able to work in the United States. So the F1 student can work on campus. It's an easier process if you're going to work on campus. The maximum is 20 hours a week during the semester. That is a federal law. And then up to 40 hours a week during vacation periods. So when you're not in school and you're still a current student, there are times where you may be able to work, more than 20 hours. But please do not seek or accept any off-campus employment without coming to see me to talk about if you're eligible and what process you would need to complete before you would be able to start work. Just please understand that any unauthorized work is grounds for immediate termination of your SEVIS record and immediate departure from the United States. So it's really important that if you're seeking any type of employment to come see me before you accept any kind of work or start any work. F1 students are required to file a U.S. tax return. That information is provided to you, and that usually comes from the business office sometime in January or February months. Any off-campus work has to be authorized by USCIS through an I-765 application. And that is something that I would walk you through, give you the information. There is a fee for it and an application process, and it can take up to 90 days to process that application. So curricular practical training, or CPT, is for our degree-seeking students. So our students in a bachelor's and associate program that requires employment to be part of the curriculum. So if you look at your audit sheets and there's an internship or practicum that's on your audit sheet that's required, you would be eligible to do CPT or curricular practical training, whether it's on campus or off campus. You have to be enrolled at least 1 year before you can request CPT, And it has to be approved and recorded in CVIS, and an updated I-20 be issued before you start work. So you would go to your academic advisor and they would start the process with you on internships or practicums. Just keep in mind you have to have an offer in writing from the employer, and you have to continue your full-time enrollment while you're completing your CPT. You also have to be enrolled in an internship and practicum course for the that it's required for your program at the time you're employed. So the other work opportunity for F1 students is called Optional Practical Training, or OPT. It is for degree-seeking students at the associate, bachelor's, and the master's level. It's an opportunity for a 12-month, up to 12-month work experience. It can be pre-completion, that means prior to graduation, or post-completion, which means you would be completing your program and then you would start working. So the post-completion OPT is what's more popular for most students. And it has to be completed within the 14 months after graduation. You have a 60-day grace period after you've graduated, but you have to have applied between 90 days prior to your graduation and 60 days after the graduation. So you can't wait until 62 days after or 61 days after you've graduated to apply. USCIS processes those applications. So there is an application process. I do help you with that. I do walk you through that. And so we can work with that together. But OPT, or Option Practical Training, is an option for our degree-seeking students. And just so you're aware, it has to be related to your field of study, and it does allow for 90 days of unemployment. So driver's license. I know many of you would probably want to drive in the state of Florida, and you need to have a driver's license to do that in the United States. If you do plan to drive in the United States, you can go to the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles websites. There are 2 listed on this slide, and apply for a driver's license. There are a few things to remember. You have to wait a minimum of 10 days after you arrive into the United States, and your CVIS record must be in active status, which means right now all of you have an initial status I-20. If you have not entered yet, you have entered, but the semester has not started. Once I submit your information to CVIS that you're here and that you're enrolled for the semester, your initial status will change to active status. So please make sure that if you are going to go to get your driver's license, that you contact my office to make sure your CVIS record is in active status. Some other little helpful hints, we'll just go through this quickly. Writing a U.S. address, there's an example there. The first line would be the name of the person. The second line is the street address, which includes a number, a house number, a street name, and then always make sure that if there is an apartment number that is listed on the second line of the address. And then the third line is a city with a comma, and then the state is a 2-letter abbreviation of the state, so Florida would be FL, and then a 5-digit zip code. So you can see an example there of an envelope that is addressed. Writing the date, typically, for the most part, we write it month, day, year. I know this is a little different than most countries write it day, month, year, but you will see it is written month, day, year a lot here in the United States. And then local telephone numbers. For example, our local exchange is 561 here, but you can see the phone numbers are 7 digits long, and then there's also an area code that's added in front of that, which is 3 digits. So long distance, if you're calling outside of Florida, you would dial the area code, which is 3 digits, and then the exchange, which is 7 digits. So Social Security number, I get a lot of questions about Social Security numbers, and if you need them, what they are. So a Social Security number is a 9-digit number issued by the United States Social Security Office. You need a Social Security number only if you're going to be employed and earning wages. So if you're going to volunteer somewhere, you don't need a Social Security number. If you're being hired as an employee, you need to apply for a Social Security card. This identifies your wages and your earnings, and it keeps track of those for tax purposes. You only ever have one number issued to you in your lifetime. So if you're changing jobs, you could still use the same Social Security number. If you're not working and you're applying for a driver's license, the driver's license requires a Social Security card or a letter stating that you don't have a Social Security card. So you would go to the Social Security office and obtain a letter stating that you do not have a Social Security number. But it's also very important to know that this Social Security number is highly protected information. You don't want to just throw your Social Security number around people that may be using it or want to use it for not so credible things. So you want to make sure it's protected. You keep it in a safe place. Don't give it out to anyone who just asks for it, especially if it's a telephone call, somebody asking for your Social Security number over the telephone. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could have dire consequences personally, financially, identity theft. So always make sure that you keep it in a safe place. Some other helpful tips. The legal drinking age in the United States is 21. The legal age for purchasing tobacco products, it does vary by state, but the new law in Florida, the minimum age is 21. There's also some helpful information on the Study in the States website about what you should do if you get any kind of legal trouble or anything like that. So make sure you're reading through that information. The driving age in Florida the minimum is 18 years old. And just a little helpful hint about, because I've been asked about this several times, if you're stopped when you're driving by a law enforcement officer, what should we do? Just a couple things to keep in mind. The first thing you want to do is stay in your car. Keep your hands visible so the officer can see them. They'll ask for your driver's license, your registration, maybe proof of insurance. They will tell you why you've been stopped, and just comply with them. And one thing I want to, it may sound a little funny, but in some countries, you bribe a police officer. In the United States, you really don't want to do that. That's not a thing that happens here in the United States. So wellness resources, we have a lot of wellness resources for our students, and we know that life can be unexpected and things can happen. Could be a long way from home with no family or relatives in the area. So we know that it could be a challenge for you mentally, physically, navigating those occurrences through life. And so there's a lot of resources for health and wellness. And so this page just gives you some information on some county resources, local resources, but we also have a licensed mental health counselor here on campus. You can go at any time, meeting them one time, several times, whatever you need. So please make sure that you are aware that we do have these resources. And like I said before, all of our offices are open for our students if you have any need for any assistance from us. Emergency and safety information. We have the 911 emergency system here. And so that is for emergency situations where you would require law enforcement at the fire department, an ambulance, that type of thing. So that's for the major emergency situations. We also have the Kaiser University Emergency Alert System. And so it's called Alert Now, and you would sign up for that, and you would get text alerts on weather information, campus situations, and the like. So please make sure you're signing up for the Campus Emergency Alert System. There's two links there to Travel Guide and Off-Campus Living, just some tips about those two subjects. And then also on campus, we have a crisis response team, or a campus response team, or CRT team. And they're identified, they have red lanyards they wear around their neck, and they carry a radio with them when they're out and about campus. These are members of different offices throughout the campus, and they are for direct and immediate campus response until law enforcement or emergency personnel can arrive. So if you see any of them around, that's what they're for, and they would assist with any kind of emergency situations on campus. So another few general safety tips, don't leave your valuables lying around in your car. Keep your car doors locked. Keep your valuables, in safe places. If you're going to be out at night, make sure you have a buddy with you or you park in well-lit areas and kind of be around, aware of your surroundings. Always carry your campus ID with you while you're on campus, and then carry a photo ID with you, especially if you're going to be off campus. And one last slide, just some fun information. I know we've covered a lot of information in the last couple slides. So just some fun information about Palm Beach County. So Florida has a bunch of counties within the state of Florida, but we are in Palm Beach County, and we have a population as of 2018 of 1.49 million people. That's a lot of people. And so our area in square miles is 2,383 miles. So we're the largest county in the state of Florida. Our average temperature is 75 degrees Fahrenheit, but it does get warm. We do get heat indexes at well over 100, so be prepared for the heat as well. Palm Beach County, an interesting fact, leads the nation, the United States, in the production of sugar, believe it or not, and sweet corn. We have a lot of agriculture out west. And then 18% of all the sugar in the United States is produced right here in Palm Beach County. We have 160 public and private golf courses, so if you like to play golf, this is a great place to do that. We also have 1,000 public and private tennis courts, another great opportunity for those that like tennis. And we also are the home of the International Polo Club Palm Beach. We have a coastal and beach area that ranges for 47 miles north and south. There's 85 parks for exploring the great outdoors if you'd like to be outdoors and exploring nature. And then we have over 40 cultural venues in the county. One interesting thing is we have a lighthouse. So you can go and pay, and you go into the lighthouse and you can climb up the 105 stairs and rise up 108 feet to overlook the Jupiter Inlet, which is really beautiful. I really highly recommend that. And another little thing, if you like wildlife, we have a lot of wildlife in Florida. And just an interesting fact here, we have a law, and it's illegal to feed manatees, sandhill cranes, bears, raccoons, foxes, and alligators. So just keep that in mind. It's a fun little fact for you. And we do have alligators and raccoons here I've seen in the local area, and sandhill cranes. So that's the end of our slide presentation. I want to remind you that if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us, email us, contact us when you get to campus. If you have not arrived to campus yet, or you have arrived to campus, make sure you're coming to check in with me at the registrar's office. I'm located in the DeVos Cook Academic Center, and make sure you're bringing your documents, your I-94, your I-20, and your passport with you. We really look forward and are excited to have you here on campus, and we're looking forward to a really great, exciting new school year. So welcome, and we'll see you soon.